Good morning, everybody. How you doing on this fine Friday? Happy Friday. Today is January 26th, 2024. We're coming down to the end of January, which has been an immaculate month, and we're looking to not mess that month up, right? Continue to operate in patience, continue to take advantage of the opportunities that are presented with us or to us. And put one foot in front of the other, get 1% better each and every day. So happy Friday. Welcome. This is our daily session every day, 8:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Premarket Prep session, where we go over the important news, notes, trade ideas, analysis, etc., that are key to keeping you consistently profitable here across these markets. It's a crazy time. We got crazy news. We got crazy markets, but there's still a way that you can make sure that you are consistently profitable. And part of it is being a part of this community. So welcome here, whether you're watching live or, via the recording. Make sure you drop that one in the chat signifying your intention to get 1% better. That's what we're here trying to do each and every day is get 1% better by the time we lay our head, to the mat, pillow, bed, whatever it is that you sleep on, right? By the time we lay our head down, we could say that we got 1% better, and that compounds over time. And soon enough, we're out here cranking out 2,000% plays, right? And 500% plays and 300% plays on the regular, like we were last week. Now, again, that's not every week, but you put yourself in the space to even do that, right? And that's what a lot of us kind of, struggle with doing, is putting ourselves in the space for miracles to find us. Opportunity always meets you in motion. So for my people who you might be watching the pre-market prep and you watch it faithfully, but you haven't moved yet, you won't get those results you're looking for until you move. This isn't to discourage you. This is to encourage you to movement, right? Every big discovery, every big achievement that was ever made took movement. Patrick Mahomes never won a Super Bowl by not moving. The Ravens should bring it home this year. I'm a Washington fan, but being from Maryland and all that, rooting for the Ravens. So I'm just saying, because he has won one. He never won one by not doing anything, right? Da Vinci never made history in his space by never picking up a brush or moving it, right? At some point, you got to start, or else you live your whole life with that regret. So let's make that point now, right? And if you want to start and you're not sure how, what that looks like, reach out. Closed mouths never get fed, right? You always hear those amazing stories about, maybe somebody do like little Instagram video and then they stop somebody. They're like, hey, can I borrow $10? And the person lets them and they say, okay, you were so nice for this. I'm going to give you $1,000. If you never stop to interact, right, you never open up that realm of communication, then you don't open the door to that blessing. So I encourage each and every person, at the end of this week, this weekend, everything, just have more communication. Right? You only live once. There's no need to be sad, no need to be scared, no need to be embarrassed. But that's communication opens the door for you to be blessed, right? You don't just randomly get blessed without some sort of communication, some sort of interaction. So put yourself in the environment of a blessing. That's like, I feel like the mantra this morning, because it happens, right? You say, oh, this happens for everyone except for me. They are moving, right? They're putting themselves in the environment for opportunity to find them. You want to do the exact same thing, because right now, by not doing that, you're actively hiding from opportunity. And that's not something that we want to do. So without further ado, guys, again, good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great night's sleep. You're ready to rock and roll here today. Let's dive into what we got going on this fine morning in terms of news and everything like that. Hopefully I'm not lagging too much or anything. If I am, let me know. I think one thing is that my computer does not just fully turn off whenever I turn it off, whenever I close it. But yeah, anyways, let's dive into our news for today. So top news, the roaring 20s. Economic reports are continuing to pour in with a stellar print on Thursday that energized the markets. The benchmark S&P 500 notched its fifth consecutive record following the reading, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average reached another all-time high. The NASDAQ also tacked on gains, but some tech sentiment was hurt after hours on weak guidance from Intel. Now, something that's really important to point out here is the fact that reading charts and knowing what you're doing in markets is so paramount. We got good GDP numbers here, but that headline is very deceiving. The market did not, rocket to new all-time highs. We opened higher and then sold over the course of the rest of the day, right? So if have limited knowledge of options, I buy calls if we get good news and the market's expected to go up. I buy puts if it's expected to go down. But you don't know how to read the charts. You don't know what those little candles mean in terms of the story that they're telling of the battle between buyers and sellers. You will get tripped up and fall flat on your face a lot of times when it looks like you should be getting an easy layup win. If I had to ask you yesterday which one you thought you'd be best off at opening, grabbing, calls or puts, you'd probably say calls. We got GDP data that smashed expectations, right? Super bullish. We went over that. But we also were at a point where we had broken out, pushed higher, and were retracing breakout on QQQ and on SPY, right? So what we ended up doing yesterday was fully retracing breakout and then finding support and then likely, continuing to push today. So it's one of those things where if you aren't aware of the intricacies, you will waste more time and more money trying to piecemeal it together than getting in a community full of experienced people that are able to give you insight into when to move, how to move, right? Because that's where you're going to blow the account. It's not like, oh man, I took a bad trade. It's you taking a bunch of trades that you shouldn't be taking for the wrong reasons. If you take well thought out trades, you will win more often than you lose, and you will win in larger magnitude, right? If you take well thought out trades. If you take scarcely thought out trades, then you will lose much more often than you win, and your money will run out or your patience will run out before you have the chance to ever reap the rewards that the market has for you. So understand, whether it's in learning markets or in life in general, you are better off finding some source of experience and honing your skills under that than trying to just do it and think that something that you've never done, that again people go to school and get degrees to do and use algorithms to do, and these banks still explode, right? That's a little presumptuous to think you can just go out and free ball it and everything will work out. So make sure that you are understanding that positive news does not necessarily equate to positive price action, right? That does not have to happen. You want to see how the market reacts to something and then make a move based off of the price action and how the market reacts. In terms of quotes, quote, people are getting ahead. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said in remarks at the Economic Club of Chicago, quote, instead of contracting, the economy has continued to grow. They're seeing their fortunes improve. And I believe that if inflation stays low, they'll begin to regain their confidence in the economy. It's a good thing, reflective of strong, healthy spending and productivity improvements, and most likely not creating an inflationary challenge. Speaking of inflation, the Fed's favorite inflation gauge, known as the Core Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, will be published Friday at 8:30 a.m. So already published, already out. The measure is expected to have risen 0.2% in December from November, representing an increase of 3%. That will mark another success for the central bank, which continues to get closer to its 2% goal despite fears of last mile challenges. Any incoming data will also help guide monetary policy making, with things looking bright for the economy on the horizon. So let's see what we got here. Looks like I don't see anything negatively affecting what the market has to offer. Yeah, it looks like around 8:30. We popped for a second, sold back down, and then from there have moved, a bit higher. So the market must have liked whatever data that it ended up getting once it kind of parsed through it. Let's see here exactly what we are looking at. So later, okay, all right. So U.S. personal income, December actual 0.3% versus 0.4% previous. Estimated was 0.3. So right in line with expectations. Personal spending month over month, actual was 0.7%. The estimated was 0.5%. So personal spending was up higher than expected. U.S. PCE price index, actual was 0.2%, estimated was 0.2%, so right in line with expectations. And the U.S. PCE price index year over year was up 2.6%, estimated 2.6%. So exactly in line with what was expected, right, in terms of inflation, which is good because the market and everything else in life moves based off the expectations. If I order a Big Mac and they throw me a fillet of fish, I'm pissed off. I wanted a fillet of fish. I got a Big Mac, right? But if I ordered a Big Mac and I get a Big Mac, cool, you met my expectations. Everybody's happy. At the end of the day, the result was the same. Someone was handed a meal, but your expectations is what determined it all. in terms of kind of how that's affected rate futures traders continue to see strong chance of first Fed rate cut in May. Traders see probability of a first Fed rate cut at March at less than 50%. I think that's interesting because you guys know that I see the first rate cut coming in March. I still stand by that, so we'll see. That doesn't in March, but I believe we get it around that time. But all of our elite, candidates and contracts are set up in a way that it doesn't matter if it's March or if it's May, right? As long as those rates come down, we feast. In terms of our next little bit of news, I feel like I'll kind of skip the end of that section. In terms of earnings news, bleak outlook. Intel significantly weaker than expected guidance overshadowed a continued rebound in PCs, dragging its stock down 11% in extended trade on Thursday. Not so hot news for us, as I was definitely down to play Intel's earnings, and I did play it. Luckily, it was with like the tiniest little bit of money because I'm not throwing in an amount that's going to mess up the week that we've had or the month that we've had fooling around with Intel, right? And luckily, those contracts are very cheap, right? Under $100 a pop. I think like 50 bucks a pop. So not mad at it at all. Wake up, cool, lost 90 bucks, 100 bucks, whatever it is on Intel. You keep it pushing, especially with how these swings are looking right now. Completely fine with that. The company expects Q1 revenue to be $12.2 billion to $13.2 billion, $13.3 billion analysts were anticipating, and guided for adjusted EPS 13 cents, consensus of 42 cents. Quote, while we expect a slightly sub-seasonal Q1 from our core product businesses, we see material inventory corrections in Mobileye and PSG, CFO David Zinsner said on an earnings call. Investing group leader Quad 7 Capital called the guidance painful, saying it stemmed from pressure in data center and AI. Quote, while this segment is the source of massive future growth, the market may have got ahead of itself, bidding shares up. So we might see this, right, with a lot of companies that have gotten this big balloon blowing them up, kind of deflating a bit, as they have to meet real world results and expectations and deliverables. And for Intel, but what's also nice is that if you really want to hold out a candle of hope, the expiration, that we purchased was next week. So AMD reports before then, and if AMD does have a solid report, then Intel can make its way back up. Does that mean that it's worth anything by then? Who knows? But just, that possibility is there. That's part of like the intricacy that goes into picking contracts sometimes, is looking at stuff like that and saying, well, even if this goes down, I might have a little lifeline in the works here if AMD decides to get something back. But again, such small buying power, such small capital, I don't even know if it's worth the eyesore for me personally of it sitting there and just like being read, In terms of global news, Houthi hostilities. Chinese officials have reportedly called on their Iranian counterparts to help end Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea or risk harming business ties between the two countries. Note that China is the biggest trading partner of Iran, which has been the biggest backer of the Houthis and the so-called Axis of Resistance. U.S. and U.K. retaliatory military strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen have so far failed to deter the group from targeting commercial ships in the Red Sea, which have been ongoing since mid-November. The Houthis had originally said they would target Israeli-linked ships to show solidarity with Hamas, but that extended to all ships en route to Israel and then widened to other vessels regardless of its destination. So we've got this ongoing issue in the Red Sea, which again is just not easing up at all. Just not easing up. And this is something where rarely, right, do China and the U.S. kind of ally on a stance, but this is one of those particular situations where both of them are like, hey, can we get this under control? This doesn't help anybody. Let's see if we can get things wrangled in here. In terms of legislation, digital dilemmas, the Florida House of Representatives this week passed bipartisan legislation that bans minors under the age of 16 from creating social media accounts and requires platforms to terminate minors' existing profiles and verify account holders' ages. Quote, social media use correlates with increasing mental health challenges among children, declared Florida House Speaker Paul Renner, adding that the bill would, quote, prevent this from happening to another generation. Note that the legislation would not apply to websites used for email, messaging, and online shopping, likely causing confusion over which companies need to comply with the law. Other U.S. states have tried to limit social media access for minors, but their efforts have been blocked by lawsuits. Yeah, it's a really, really, really tough spot because social media is, bar none, probably the most destructive force when it comes to the development of children, right? It's showing them all these things they shouldn't see. It's training their brain in all the wrong ways in order to have just short, tiny attention spans, immediate gratification. It increases the baseline of your like serotonin when you start the day with your phone. In that way, throughout the day, you feel depressed unless you are looking at your phone and keeping that same baseline of serotonin boost. So, all in all, I think this is a great idea. Do I know how to implement it? No. Do I know if it'll work? No. Only thing you can do is control what you can control and limit your own kids' screen time as much as you can. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta, maybe I got to get some notes down or something because whenever I have kids, I mean, this is a wild world to be having kids in with all this stuff going on. So yeah, I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But in terms of today's markets, in Asia, Japan, we're down 1.3%, Hong Kong down 1.6, China up 0.1, India closed. In London, 0.2%, Paris up 2.1, Frankfurt up 0.2, the Dow down 0.2, S&P down, NASDAQ down 0.5. That's not the case anymore. S&P is up, NASDAQ up, all that. Let's see where we're at. We got the PCE data. It's the most important piece of data that we'll get this morning. Pending home sales, we get at 10 a.m. So again, like maybe a random little piece of data that could or could not have anything to do with movement. We get at 10 a.m. Keep an eye out, right? If we do start to move at 10, then you can say, okay, it was probably this piece of data. But we'll finish up here with our rapid fire stock news rundown. Tesla spins lower after earnings, now down 27% in 2024. Oh, Elon, the ballad of a sad Elon. Apple unveils biggest changes to iOS App Store since launch. That's significant. Again, that was the most revolutionary, technological breakthrough of the 21st century was the App Store. It gave birth to tons of unicorns. It made software mainstream and accessible, and it changed the world. So I'm excited to see what that change is. Microsoft to lay off 1,900 Activision Blizzard Xbox employees. Payment volume at Visa misses. Expense guidance increases. Jamie Dimon shakes up top JP Morgan executive leadership. Boeing situation not tenable, Bank of America says, in downgrade. Boeing just spiraling, crashing down to earth. GM, ticker GM, GM's Cruise takes the blame for response to October accident. Then Levi Strauss to cut workforce by up to 15%, posts mixed results. Paramount, ticker Para, P-A-R-A, records strong gain as layoffs, merger talk make news. So that's it for this morning, right? And it for this week. I'm excited for what the market has to offer today. A lot of juicy potential setups and opportunities. So make sure that you are in the best environment to take advantage of those, right? And that's the Stock Options Made Easy community. If you're not a part of it, reach out, Adam at adamhollandeducates.com. Hit me, say I want in, and let's figure out how to get you in, how to get you involved, and get you ripping and running with us in markets. Other than that, everybody, let's have a great day. Have a safe weekend out there, right? And I'll see you back here on Monday morning for our next Premarket Prep session. Have a good one. Peace.